There you go. Good. Hello. Nice to see you. Okay, so
nice to see you too.
First thing first, how is the pandemic affecting children's mental health, since we're talking about children now?
Yeah, it's a very relevant question for nowadays.
Yeah.
The impact of pandemic to children's mental health and well-being is very profound, if I may say. And UNICEF itself reported that 1 out of 5 children and teenagers until young adults are now often feel depressed and severely sad during everyday life. They have little interest in doing things they previously enjoyed. Because the opportunity to connect to friends, to support system are now very limited.
Yeah.
Also, we know that socializing is important during children's life. They are learning, they are connect through playing with their friends. And socializing is a skill. It needs to be sharpened. And this pandemic, children lost their opportunity to do so. So yes, the impact is very profound for children towards their mental health. And as reported in the UNICEF also, that 2 out of 3 male children are now feeling more depressed, more sad than they feel before the pandemic. And that's the report that we have.
Why
right
is it just
now.
male?
Because it's very interesting questions, you know, because female children, girl, usually express emotions.
Yes.
But for boys, they usually keep their emotions for themselves.
Hey.
That's it is sad because emotion has no genders. Boys and girls both can feel the emotion. But sadly, now boys are more repressing their feelings, and 2 to 3 boys are feeling more sad than what they felt before the pandemic.
Okay. But Reti, I'd like to ask, is there any particular symptom that develops or begins to be seen, begins to show when a child is beginning to have mental health problems?
Okay, that's very interesting questions. First, what you may see is they begin to lose interest in things they usually enjoy. For example, if your child usually likes to swim, usually like to read books, usually like to watching movies with families, now they lose interest in all of those activities. And secondly, they show changes in moods and behavior and the way they previously they feel good about themselves. I feel good that my existence is really have a purpose. But now they don't feel like that anymore. And the third one is they lost connection they once had with their support system, with family, with friends. They usually have chit-chats with their fathers, with their mother, with the assistants in their house, or with family and friends. No, they rarely seen doing that anymore. So that's three major signs: losing interest, changes and behavior, and lost connections with their surroundings that is affecting their everyday life could be the symptoms of this mental health problem. And also, those conditions may affect their stress level, not only their own stress level, but the stress level of their surroundings. So their family begin to stress thinking about that situations. And also sometimes it raises concern because begin to show potential dangers. If your teenage kids started to like lock themselves inside the room too often or too long, and start to show the symptoms of self-harm, things like that. That's also might be underlying symptoms that you have to put attention to.
I see. But Reti, sadly, cases of violence against children during the pandemic have increased, right? What are the cause of this problem?
Okay. The root cause of increased number of domestic violence in children is very systemic, I guess. Because first it's rooted in the economical challenges the family have to endure during this pandemic. because it's not easy for many families in Indonesia in particular to face this pandemic, and it caused the increased level of stress within the family. The parent itself cannot endure that situations. They have no solution. It creates helplessness within the family. And the children, as the very, we can say it's a bottom level of the family, the one that cannot fight back, become the victim of that situations. And secondly, of course, it's because of the low level of awareness about mental health in the parent themselves, because they might have also unresolved trauma in their childhood that carried on until today. And it's never been triggered until the pandemic is here, because the stress level is so high. And that caused the domestic violence to the children also increase.
Okay. So how actually we as parents or as a family can actually help our child or our children to who are exposed to the violence itself? What we can actually do?
Okay, first, we know there is a term called psychological first aid. Just like when you have bruises or you get hurt, you get first aid.
Yep.
Now, we can also have psychological first aid. First, make sure the children are separated from the perpetrators. Make sure they feel safe physically. And secondly, to make them feel safe psychologically, it might take a little harder job, but we can try. But first, take a breath so they can feel calmer and get back the nerve system into a normal level. And secondly, ask them to then what is the positive experience they have, because it brings back that nerve system to get into normalized level so they can understand what's going on more clearly. And third one, of course, when the children are going back to normal level, we can gather more information and we can report the situations if it's possible to Komisi Perlindungan Anak. You can browse and Google the number. It can be done online now, but you have to make sure that the children are in a very normalized situations first, either physically and psychologically. That can we do.
Okay. But Reti, before we wrap up our discussion, is there anything else you would like to tell parents out there? Anything else you would like to convey? Any message, perhaps?
Okay. This pandemic has been very difficult, not only for us, but also for the children. So the children doesn't need the perfect parent. They doesn't need the parents who have everything. They don't need the pandemic also to end soon, because it's not going to end soon, but they need us to be there with them. So if this pandemic has been a burden for you, it has been a burden for everyone too, but the children doesn't need anything else. They just need to have a connection with you. Yes, you have difficult time, but you're not alone. So let's put attention more to our mental health issue too before we started to intervene with our children's life. I mean, before we try to take care of our children and into our children, let's get more to an awareness into our psychological and mental health issues first.
Okay, thank you very much, Mbak Reti Oktania. All right.